For many years, people around the world had heard rumors about something strange happening deep under the Pacific Ocean. It started with whispers between military workers, scientists, and ship engineers who had vanished from public view. Officially, nothing was happening there, but everyone knew that when governments denied something this strongly, it meant something big was being hidden. Some called it the Pacific Shield. Others said it was the world's first planetary defense project. But the few who had seen even small parts of it knew one thing. It was not just another machine. It was something beyond human imagination. Far below the waves, in a structure that looked more like a small city than a base, the project was kept secret for decades. Its name was never spoken in public, but inside the underground halls a single word was printed on every door and badge: Helios. No one outside the project ever knew what it meant. Workers were told it was a research station. Some thought it was an energy project, but those who stayed long enough noticed the signs: massive power readings, cargo ships bringing strange alloys from off-world colonies, and engineers who had worked in deep space research instead of shipbuilding. Whatever was being built under the Pacific was not made for Earth. It was made for something far greater. Over the years, the world above changed. Countries stopped fighting each other, mostly out of exhaustion. After decades of climate disasters, food shortages, and failed governments, people learned to work together. The old flag still existed, but the real power was now a global defense group called the Earth Strategic Command. They didn't belong to any nation. They belonged to Earth itself. And under their supervision, Project Helios continued to grow quietly. Its funding came from places no one could trace, and its technology seemed to jump ahead by decades every few years. By the year 2094, the secret could no longer be hidden. Space observatories that had long watched the stars noticed something unusual coming from the direction of Proxima Centauri. At first, it looked like a faint signal, just background noise, but the data showed a pattern repeating at precise intervals like a heartbeat. When the pattern grew stronger, the scientists realized it wasn't natural. Something or someone was sending it. The message wasn't friendly. It was a scan. A signal designed to measure and map everything in its path, including Earth. When the message reached the upper levels of the command, panic spread behind closed doors. The leaders didn't want to cause fear among the people, but they understood what it meant. It wasn't the first time Earth had detected something from space, but it was the first time the source was moving closer. Fast. The world's communications went silent for 3 hours while an emergency council met. No press, no cameras, no leaks. What was said in that room was never recorded, but when the meeting ended, a single command was sent to the Pacific base. It was time to awaken Helios. Inside the massive underwater structure, alarms sounded, but they weren't warnings. They were activation signals. Engineers who had been waiting for years suddenly moved with purpose. Giant machines began to rise from the deep hangars, their surfaces reflecting blue light through the water. Whole sections of the facility detached from the ocean floor, forming into a single structure that had been kept hidden, even from those who worked nearby. From the outside, it looked like an island slowly rising, but as the water poured off its sides, people realized it was no island. It was a ship, if ship was still the right word for something so large it blocked out the horizon. News broke across the world in fragments. Satellite images showed the Pacific waters parting as the object surfaced. Within minutes, every network on Earth was broadcasting the same sight. An enormous structure lifting itself into the air with no visible engines, glowing faintly with deep, golden light. Reporters tried to explain it as a new experimental craft, but even experts couldn't understand how it was moving. The surface of the object seemed to shift like liquid metal, reflecting the clouds above and the ocean below. It didn't make sound. It simply rose. For most people watching, it was the first time they realized Earth might have built something capable of more than defense. For others, it was the moment they understood that their world had changed forever. Social media filled with theories. Some said it was alien technology stolen and rebuilt. Others claimed it was the result of secret experiments with antimatter engines. The truth, as always, was more complex and more dangerous. Inside the ship, hundreds of human operators worked quietly at their consoles. They had trained for years without knowing the full purpose of their work. Now, as the systems powered on, they saw the full design for the first time. The name Titanborn appeared on every screen. The Earth Strategic Command's ultimate creation, had finally awakened. Its energy core glowed brighter than sunlight, running on a power source never before tested in open space. Every system, every weapon, every defense array was linked to a single directive: protect Earth. From orbit, astronauts on the International Colony Station saw Titan-borne break through the clouds. The view left them speechless. The ship was not shaped like anything from old science fiction. It was elegant, smooth, and alive, with surfaces that shifted like breathing skin. One astronaut later said it felt as if the planet itself had built it, not humans. Its engines ignited silently, leaving no smoke, no fire, only a ripple in the air like heat over sand. The station's instruments failed to register its full mass. Some said it was heavier than any known material. Others said it was lighter than air when active. Whatever the truth, one fact was clear: Earth had created something no one else in the known universe possessed. Governments tried to control the story, calling it a research experiment. But the world had seen too much. People everywhere, from cities to colonies on Mars, felt a strange mix of fear and pride. Humanity had always been fragile when compared to the vastness of space, but this was proof that the species had changed. They were no longer waiting for others to protect them. They had built their own guardian. As days passed, Titan-borne stayed in Earth's atmosphere, orbiting slowly as systems were tested and calibrated. Scientists were amazed to discover that the energy output from its core didn't match any known spectrum. It wasn't just electricity or fusion. It was something new, something cleaner and stronger. Rumors said the design came from an artifact discovered years earlier, buried deep under Antarctic ice, a fragment of unknown origin that glowed faintly even when frozen. The artifact had been hidden by world powers, its study forbidden. But after one scientist cracked part of its structure, everything changed. That discovery became the heart of Project Helios, and eventually the heart of Titan-borne. While ordinary people celebrated the ship as a sign of human unity, others feared what would come next. If humanity had reached this level of power, how long before other civilizations noticed? Space agencies received new readings from their deep scanners. The strange signal from Proxima Centauri was growing stronger. Some scientists believed it was reacting to Titan-borne's activation, like an echo responding across the stars. For the first time, the question wasn't whether humans were alone. The question was whether they were ready to be known. Inside command headquarters, the leaders of Earth's defense looked out over the ocean, where Titan-borne hovered in silence. They knew that the ship wasn't meant to be shown yet. But the moment it rose from the water, secrecy had ended. The message had already been sent. Earth was ready, not for war but for survival. They didn't know if the signal from Proxima was a warning or an invitation, but either way, humanity now had something that could answer it. The news spread beyond Earth. Lunar stations sent messages of support. Mars colonies offered to send reinforcements. Even the asteroid miners, often forgotten by the main world governments, celebrated by transmitting a simple message back to Earth: "We're proud." It was the first time in history that all of humanity looked in the same direction, not down at borders, but up at the stars. As night fell across the Pacific, the sky shimmered with light from Titan-borne's core. From beaches and cities, people watched the golden glow spread across the clouds like dawn returning early. Children pointed and smiled. Parents felt tears without knowing why. For centuries, humans had looked up and wondered who might be out there. That night, for the first time, they didn't wonder. They knew someone was watching, and they were ready to be seen. In a control chamber deep within Titan-borne, a single operator sat in silence, watching as systems stabilized. There was no noise, only a faint hum like distant thunder. The data showed one message flashing across the monitors, a coded phrase from command. 3 words, simple but powerful. "You are awake." The operator smiled slightly. The ship was alive, and so was humanity's hope. No one could predict what would happen next, but everyone understood one truth. When Earth's ultimate warship appeared, the universe would never be the same again. The world didn't sleep after Titan-borne rose from the ocean. People stayed up through the night, watching live feeds and grainy images on their screens. Every conversation, every broadcast, every whisper carried the same question: what had humanity just built? News anchors spoke in calm voices, but the tension beneath their tone was impossible to hide. Across continents, scientists tried to decode leaked blueprints and sensor readings. None of it made full sense. Whatever Titanborn was made of, it wasn't a known element. Whatever powered it, it wasn't a normal reactor. In the following days, a strange silence covered the planet. The world leaders didn't give speeches. The Earth Strategic Command didn't release statements. The usual noise of politics and arguments disappeared as if everyone was holding their breath. Even social networks, normally flooded with jokes and drama, had turned serious. For once, the entire planet shared the same focus. In schools, children asked their teachers if Titanborn was going to protect them from aliens. In factories, workers paused their machines just to look up when a golden flash from the sky reflected on windows. On farms, people stood in the fields and watched the strange new star moving slowly across the clouds. The warship had become more than a machine. It was a symbol, a reminder that humans were no longer bound to their planet's surface. But inside the command's main control center, the mood was not calm. The scientists and military officers stood around a giant screen showing the source of the signal from Proxima Centauri. It was now stronger than before. At first, the pulses came once every few hours. Now they came every few minutes. The pattern had changed too. It wasn't random anymore. It looked like language. Experts had been decoding it for days. They discovered that the energy signal carried structured data, almost like a voice translated through electricity. And when they finally played the decoded message, a chill went through the room. The sound was low, rhythmic, and powerful, like a deep heartbeat echoing across space. The meaning was simple but terrifying. It was a message of intent. It said, "We see you." The leaders didn't speak. They only exchanged quiet looks. Earth's presence was no longer a secret in the galaxy. The moment Titanborn rose into the sky, the signal from Proxima had changed its tone. Whoever or whatever was out there had noticed humanity's new power, and they were responding. The command ordered Titanborn to begin orbital patrol. The ship's engines lit up without fire or sound, propelling it beyond the atmosphere in moments. The glow it left behind was visible from half the planet. For people watching below, it looked like a second sunrise crossing the night sky. Some cheered. Others prayed. Everyone felt the same pull of awe and fear. When Titanborn reached low orbit, its systems automatically began scanning deep space. The data coming in was unlike anything the crew had seen. Strange distortions appeared beyond the moon's orbit, invisible to normal sensors but clear to Titanborn's advanced detectors. Something was approaching, slowly but steadily. It wasn't an asteroid or debris. It was structured, artificial, and massive. Back on Earth, the command's analysts worked in silence as the numbers scrolled across their screens. The object's size was uncertain, but its energy readings were enormous. It was still too far to be seen with the naked eye, but everyone knew this was no natural phenomenon. Some tried to stay logical, saying it could be an old probe or a comet reflecting signals strangely. But deep down, they all knew better. Something was coming toward Earth, and it wasn't coming by accident. In the cities, people could sense the tension without being told. News channels started using the phrase deep space contact, even though no one had confirmed anything. Markets froze. Flights were canceled. The world's skyports and colonies went on alert. The command stayed quiet, not to hide the truth, but to prevent panic. But as Titanborn began transmitting live readings from orbit, scientists from civilian observatories intercepted the data. Within hours, they published it online for everyone to see. The readings left no room for doubt. There was a fleet. Not just one ship or two, but several large objects, each larger than any structure humans had ever built. They were coming from the direction of Proxima Centauri, traveling at impossible speeds. Yet they weren't using normal propulsion. It was as if space itself was bending around them. When the news broke, the world reacted in waves. Some refused to believe it. Others accepted it instantly. The word aliens was whispered in every home. And even though no one had seen them yet, the fear spread faster than truth could. People remembered the old science fiction stories, but this time it wasn't fiction. Humanity had finally built something strong enough to be seen, and now something was answering that call. Titanborn continued its silent watch, orbiting the planet like a golden guardian. The ship's sensors stretched far into deep space, measuring every signal, every fluctuation, every particle. The crew didn't rest. They didn't speak much either. They knew that what they were seeing could change everything humans believed about their place in the universe. As hours turned into days, More objects appeared on Titanborn scans. They were closing in faster now. Following the same trajectory, the command finally had to inform the world. The global announcement was simple. Unidentified space bodies are approaching Earth. Stay calm. We are prepared. Those few sentences were enough to shake the world to its core. Families gathered around their screens again. People stayed home, eyes fixed on the sky. On the moon, miners reported seeing faint flickers in the darkness like distant fires moving slowly. Mars colonies sent back grainy images of strange light patterns across the stars. Everywhere the feeling was the same, a mix of fear and wonder. Humanity was no longer alone. Inside Titanborn, the systems hummed quietly. The ship's AI core monitored every heartbeat of its human crew. It didn't make decisions without them. It was designed to assist, not to rule. Everything about Titanborn was human-driven, human-focused, and built with the belief that machines should serve, not lead. The operators worked as one team, their hands steady even as the unknown signals grew stronger. On Earth, the leaders met again in the same quiet chamber where they had first approved Titanborn's awakening. There were no arguments this time. They all understood that the time for secrecy was over. They had to prepare the planet. One leader finally said what everyone was thinking. If they are coming, they already know we exist. Hiding won't help anymore. The command ordered the activation of every orbital defense network, every satellite shield, and every deep space relay, but they all knew it wouldn't matter. None of those systems could match Titanborn's capabilities. The ship wasn't just a defense weapon. It was the planet's final answer. For the next several days, the world lived under two suns. One was the natural star that had always shone above. The other was Titanborn, glowing faintly in orbit, visible even during daylight. It became a symbol of courage. People began leaving messages and lights on their rooftops at night, spelling words like hope and unity. They didn't know who might see them, but it made them feel less powerless. Then one evening, the first visual confirmation arrived. Titanborn's long-range cameras captured a shape emerging from a fold in space, a shimmer of light bending unnaturally. The image was unclear, but it was enough. Something was there. The command immediately went silent. No transmissions, no announcements. They didn't want to provoke whatever was coming. The ship adjusted its orbit automatically, positioning itself between the unknown objects and Earth. Its defense systems came online, invisible to the human eye but alive with quiet power. Energy fields spread out from its hull like ripples in water. The golden glow grew brighter, reflecting off the clouds below. From the ground, people thought it looked beautiful. Only those in the command center understood the truth. It was preparing. As the unknown objects came closer, the signals they sent changed again. This time, the message wasn't, "We see you." It was something longer, deeper, and more complex. Scientists struggled to translate it. The tone wasn't hostile, but it wasn't friendly either. It sounded like curiosity mixed with warning. Titanborn responded automatically, sending out a neutral signal, an encoded pattern representing peace. The humans on board watched as their transmission echoed across the void. For a brief moment, the unknown signal paused, almost as if listening. Then it pulsed back with new strength. The readings spiked. The command center went silent again. The moment stretched on for what felt like forever. Then the readings dropped. The approaching object slowed down and drifted to a halt beyond the moon's orbit. For the first time since the signal had been detected, nothing moved. No messages came. No further energy waves were detected. On Earth, the tension began to lift slightly. People thought it might be over. Some even celebrated, thinking the visitors had decided to leave. But deep in Titanborn's command room, the crew could see what others couldn't. The objects weren't gone. They were waiting, watching, measuring. The ship held its position, guarding Earth's blue surface below. Inside, the operators didn't speak. They didn't need to. They all shared the same unspoken thought. This was only the beginning. That night, from cities and quiet villages alike, humanity looked up at the sky, where Titanborn glowed softly among the stars. The planet below was united in silence. No borders, no wars, just one small world facing the vast. For 3 days, the objects beyond the moon stayed still. They neither moved closer nor drifted away. It was as if they were watching Earth from a distance, studying everything in silence. Titanborn remained in position, floating between the planet and the unknown visitors. its golden light glowing like a calm fire in the darkness of space. The people of Earth didn't sleep much during those days. Everyone waited for a sound, a signal, anything that would tell them what was happening. But nothing came. Only silence. Inside Titanborn, the crew worked without rest. They analyzed every signal, every faint movement in the void. The ship's sensors picked up strange patterns of energy surrounding the alien objects. The patterns didn't match anything known. No radiation, no heat, no chemical trace. It was as if the visitors were wrapped in a field that separated them from normal space. The readings made no sense, but the feeling was clear. Whatever was out there was beyond human understanding. On Earth, the command headquarters became the most secure place on the planet. The top scientists and leaders met there every hour, watching Titanborn's live feed. The massive screen showed the dark sky, dotted with stars and 3 faint shapes in the distance. The longer they looked, the clearer the shapes became, smooth, curved, almost organic. They didn't look like ships built by machines. They looked alive. The command decided not to send any more messages. They feared that communication could be misunderstood. Instead, they waited and watched. But Titanborn systems continued to record everything. Inside the ship, a quiet tension filled the air. Every heartbeat, every breath, every sound of footsteps echoed through the metallic halls. The crew wasn't afraid of what they could see, they were afraid of what they couldn't. Meanwhile, life on Earth tried to continue. Children went back to school, workers returned to their jobs, and news channels tried to sound calm. But no one truly felt normal. People kept looking at the sky, hoping to see Titanborn glowing above. It became a comfort, a reminder that something powerful was watching over them. Across cities, artists began painting the ship on walls. Poets wrote verses about the golden light that protected Earth. Even the old and the weary felt a quiet pride. Humanity had built something strong enough to make the unknown pause. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, something changed. The visitors moved. Slowly at first, their shapes glided forward, leaving behind faint ripples in space. The readings on Titanborn screens jumped sharply. Energy levels spiked. The crew tensed, their eyes fixed on the monitors. The objects weren't heading for Earth directly. Instead, they stopped midway between the moon and Titanborn. For a moment, it looked as if they were forming a line, facing the warship. A soft vibration ran through Titanborn's hull. The sensors detected an incoming signal, not a threat, something else. The ship's translation systems worked to decode it, and what came through wasn't words, but patterns of sound and light. It was communication, but in a form far beyond human language. The signal repeated in gentle waves, rhythmic and patient. It didn't sound angry. It sounded curious. The command on Earth held their breath as Titanborn systems analyzed the signal. After hours of work, the translation screen showed only one phrase. "You have awakened." The message was simple, yet heavy with meaning. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't a threat. It was recognition. The leaders didn't know how to respond. What did it mean that humanity had awakened? Did it mean the visitors had been watching all along? Had they been waiting for humans to reach this moment? Questions filled the control rooms, but no one had answers. The crew aboard Titanborn waited for instructions, their hands resting over the controls. But none came. The command wanted to think carefully. That night, from the surface of the planet, people could see strange lights in the sky. They weren't stars. They were faint colors dancing near the moon, blue, gold, and silver hues blending together like a curtain of light. The alien ships were visible now, not just to cameras but to the naked eye. The entire world stood outside watching. Some took it as a sign of peace. Others feared it was a warning before something greater. Inside Titanborn, the communication continued. The alien signal became more complex, as if learning. The ship's computers began to recognize repeating elements, symbols, tones, frequencies. Each wave carried a slight variation, a new attempt to be understood. It was as if the visitors were trying to build a bridge between minds separated by light years. One of the crew suggested sending a simple response. After long discussion, the command approved a cautious message. Titanborn's communication core transmitted a low-energy pulse, a peaceful pattern representing unity and recognition. The moment it was sent, the alien ships paused. Seconds felt like hours. Then one of the ships emitted a soft flash and a new pattern returned. The translation screen flickered with symbols. The words formed slowly. "We did not expect you so soon." The command center fell silent again. The scientists stared at the translation, unsure what to think. So soon. What did that mean? Did the visitors know humans were evolving? Did they know about Titanborn's creation before it even happened? The realization spread through the room like cold wind. Perhaps humanity's step into the stars had been noticed long before they were ready. The message repeated 3 times and then stopped. The alien ships turned slightly, aligning their formation with Titanborn. The distance between them remained the same, safe, respectful. It almost felt like a meeting, not a standoff. But deep inside the command, there was still caution. No one knew what would happen next. For several days, the standoff continued, calm but tense. Titanborn and the alien ships exchanged small bursts of light and data, slow steps toward understanding. Scientists on Earth worked around the clock, studying every signal. Linguists tried to build a language from the symbols. Physicists examined the energy readings, fascinated by their impossible patterns. Around the world, the fear that had once gripped humanity began to turn into wonder. People realized that this might not be the start of a war. It could be the start of something else. But then, without warning, Titanborn's sensors picked up a new signal. This one didn't come from the alien ships. It came from deep space, far beyond them. A massive energy surge, powerful enough to distort readings across all systems. The alien ships reacted instantly. Their shields expanded, forming visible halos of light. It was clear they weren't causing the disturbance, they were responding to it. On Earth, alarms sounded across every control room. The command tried to track the source, but the data was overwhelming. The signal was coming from the same direction as the original message months ago, from Proxima Centauri. Something larger was on its way. Something faster. Titanborn's crew received the order to move into defensive position. The ship's outer layers shifted, preparing to shield the planet. The golden glow deepened to a brighter hue, spreading across its hull like living fire. The alien ships didn't attack. Instead, they began transmitting high-frequency bursts toward the approaching signal, as if warning it or communicating with it. For hours, space became a field of silent light. No sound, no explosions, only invisible waves of energy crossing between the stars. On the ground, people could see flashes of color in the night sky, faint but real. The event filled the horizon like an aurora. News stations called it the sky of 2 worlds. Then, just as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. The readings stabilized. The alien ships powered down their shields. The massive energy source vanished. Whatever was coming had either changed course or disappeared. The tension broke, replaced by relief. But the silence that followed felt heavier than before. Titanborn maintained its position, steady and alert. The alien ships remained nearby, but now their lights dimmed slightly as if they were fading. The command tried to communicate again, but no answer came. One by one, the alien ships began to retreat, moving slowly back toward the dark distance from where they came. Before they vanished, one final signal was sent, a pulse so faint it almost went unnoticed. When decoded, it carried only 3 words: "Keep your light." That was the last anyone heard from them. The next morning, Earth woke to calm skies. The stars shone peacefully and Titanborn continued its orbit. Humanity had survived its first meeting with something beyond itself. The people didn't know whether the visitors were friends or watchers, but they had left a message of hope, a reminder that humanity's new light was seen, even across the coldness of space. In the weeks that followed, scientists around the world studied the data endlessly. Every pulse, every symbol, every fragment of energy was stored and analyzed. Yet no one could fully understand what had truly happened. Some said it was a warning. Others believed it was an invitation. Whatever it was, one thing was certain. Humanity had finally taken its first step into the larger universe. Titanborn became a legend overnight. People told stories about the ship as if it were alive. Children dreamed of joining its crew one day. Artists painted its golden glow over city skylines. Humanity had changed forever. The fear that once divided people had been replaced by something far greater: curiosity and unity. The warship that once hid beneath the ocean had risen not just to defend Earth, but to awaken it. And as Titanborn drifted silently above, its golden reflection shining down on the blue planet, every human heart carried the same thought. Maybe they weren't. After the alien ships disappeared into the dark, a strange calm returned to space. Titanborn floated above Earth like a silent guardian, its golden glow now softer but still visible from the planet's surface. People looked up every night searching for that light, finding comfort in knowing it was still there. News stations called it the Golden Star. It had become a symbol of hope, proof that humans could face the unknown and survive. But deep inside Titanborn, the mood was mixed. The crew was proud, but questions filled their minds. Who were those beings? What had they meant by "keep your light"? And what was that massive energy surge from Proxima Centauri? Some believed it was another fleet. Others thought it might have been something far worse, something even the aliens feared. The command on Earth had no answers either. They spent days going through data, analyzing every second of Titanborn's recordings. The signals, the energy readings, even the strange light patterns near the moon, all were studied carefully. Scientists from every country worked together, sharing their findings openly. For once, there were no secrets between nations. The mystery was too big for one side to solve alone. The conclusion they reached was both simple and frightening. The energy pulse that had come from deep space was not random. It was a message, a massive burst of power, carrying information encoded in radiation. But decoding it was impossible. The data was too complex, too alien. It was like trying to read a book written in light instead of words. Even so, the discovery changed everything. Humanity had not just been noticed, it had been measured. The visitors had scanned Earth, understood Titanborn's technology, and then left. Some scientists believed that the encounter had been a test, a way for them to see how humans would react to the unknown. If that was true, it meant one thing: they would come again. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal routines, but something had shifted deep within society. People no longer fought over small things as much. Nations that once argued over resources now worked on joint space projects. The Mars colonies, once distant and independent, reconnected with Earth more closely. The idea of being one world had finally become real. Still, the silence from deep space continued. No new signals, no strange readings, no sign of the alien ships. The world waited, half hoping and half fearing their return. But Titanborn stayed active, maintaining its orbit, scanning the darkness every second. Its systems never slept, and neither did its watchers. Months passed. Seasons changed. But then something unexpected happened. Titanborn's sensors picked up faint signals, not from deep space, but from within the solar system itself. The readings came from the outer edge of the system, near Neptune's orbit. It wasn't natural radiation, and it wasn't human. The energy signature matched one part of the alien signal pattern. It was weak but clear. The command reacted quickly. They ordered Titanborn to investigate. The ship's engines glowed faintly as it changed course, moving farther from Earth than it had ever gone before. The journey would take several days, even at its incredible speed. The crew prepared carefully, their faces calm but their hearts uneasy. They knew that whatever they found out there could once again change everything. As Titanborn moved beyond Mars and Jupiter, its systems detected more traces of the signal. It seemed to lead toward a single point, an area of space filled with debris and frozen rocks. When the ship arrived, its scanners revealed something hidden within that field. A large structure, metallic but not like any human creation, drifted slowly among the ice. At first glance, it looked broken, almost ancient. Its surface was scarred and dark, with glowing lines running along its sides like veins of light. The crew stared at the image in silence. The object was huge but not as large as Titanborn. It wasn't moving, but it was active. Energy readings pulsed from within it, faint but steady. The command back on Earth studied the live feed carefully. Some experts thought it might be a probe left behind by the alien visitors. Others believed it was something even older, a relic from a civilization that had been traveling the stars long before humanity ever existed. Either way, Titanborn had to proceed carefully. The ship approached slowly, scanning every inch of the structure. Then something unexpected happened. As Titanborn got closer, the strange object emitted a beam of light, not as an attack, but as a signal. It touched Titanborn's hull for only a moment, and suddenly, data flooded into its systems. Thousands of patterns, images, and sounds appeared across its displays. The crew was stunned. It wasn't random information, it was communication. The data contained images of stars, planets, and galaxies, as if someone, or something, was trying to show the history of the universe. It felt like a message from the past, a record of journeys taken long before humans could even dream of spaceflight. When the data reached Earth, scientists worked day and night to decode it. They discovered something remarkable. Among the countless images of alien worlds, there was one familiar planet: Earth. The image was old, showing the planet in its early days, covered in thick clouds and volcanic fire. Whoever had created this record had known of Earth millions of years ago. The realization sent chills through everyone who saw it. Humanity had always believed it was alone in the universe until recently. Now it seemed that Earth had been known long before humans ever appeared. The discovery changed science forever. It meant that intelligent life had existed in this galaxy for far longer than anyone imagined. Titanborn stayed near the object for several days, recording everything it could. But as the crew studied it, they noticed something strange. The structure wasn't just transmitting data, it was repairing itself. The cracks along its hull began to close slowly, as if it were healing. Energy levels increased. The light from its veins grew brighter. The command realized what was happening. The object wasn't a dead relic. It was waking up. The ship sent a signal to Titanborn to pull back, but before it could move, the object emitted one final wave of light. The flash spread through space, harmless but powerful. Every communication system in the solar system flickered for a few seconds. Then the object went dark. After the flash, Titanborn's sensors picked up something new. The same signal that had once come from Proxima Centauri had changed. It was now repeating faster, as if responding to the object's awakening. Whatever connection existed between them had been reactivated. Earth went on high alert again. The command called for every station, every satellite, and every colony to prepare. The people of Earth watched the sky once more, nervous but ready. They remembered what had happened months ago and knew that fear was not the answer. Humanity had faced the unknown once before. They could do it again. Titanborn began returning to Earth's orbit carrying the data it had gathered. The crew looked out at the stars, wondering what they had set in motion. None of them spoke, but all of them understood that the message, "Keep your light," had meant more than anyone realized. The light they were told to keep was not just a warning, it was a responsibility. As Titanborn approached Earth, the planet's surface shone brightly beneath it. Cities glowed like constellations, oceans sparkled under the sunlight, and the sky was clear. The warship's golden reflection rippled across the waves once again. For the people below, seeing Titanborn return was like seeing a promise fulfilled. Humanity had reached beyond fear, and now they were watching their own future unfold. That night, as the ship entered low orbit, a faint sound echoed across the communication channels, a pulse, quiet and steady. It wasn't from the alien object or from deep space. It came from Titanborn itself. The ship's core had recorded something during the light wave, an unknown signal buried within the data. When decoded, it played a single tone followed by 3 words translated by the system. "They remember you." The crew didn't understand what it meant. Neither did the scientists on Earth. But one thing was clear: humanity's story was far older and far greater than anyone had ever known. Titanborn's creation had not just protected Earth. It had awakened something ancient, something that had been waiting quietly for humanity to rise. And as the ship orbited above the planet, shining softly through the clouds, the world below knew that this was not the end of their story. It was the beginning of something far bigger, something written in the stars long before the first human ever looked up at them. The world had changed since Titanborn's return. People no longer saw the stars as distant or unreachable. They were now something closer, almost alive. Schools began teaching children about space not as a mystery, but as a home waiting to be explored. Scientists became heroes, and engineers were celebrated like artists. For the first time in history, humanity was united not by fear but by purpose. Titanborn remained in orbit, silent but always awake. Its systems hummed softly as it studied the message that had shaken the world. "They remember you." Those 3 words had become the most discussed phrase on the planet. Some said it meant that the beings had known humans before. Others believed it meant something deeper, that humanity's place in the galaxy had been part of a much older story. The scientists continued to study the signal buried in Titanborn's core. It contained layers of data no one could fully decode. Some parts looked like mathematical formulas. Others seemed to show movements of stars, shifting through time. The more they studied, the more they realized it wasn't just a message, it was a map. The map didn't lead to a single location but to many points across the galaxy. Dozens of star systems were marked with strange symbols. Some were too far to reach, but one was within their range. A system near Vega, not more than 25 light-years away. After long discussions and endless debates, Earth's command made a bold decision. Humanity would send an expedition. It wouldn't be Titan-borne this time. That ship had become too important to risk. Instead, a new vessel would be built. Smaller, faster, designed to travel farther than any ship before. It would carry a team of explorers, scientists, and diplomats. The project was named Dawnreach. The entire world contributed to its creation. It took only 8 months for construction to finish. People watched its golden frame rise from the ground with pride and hope. During those months, Titanborn continued to send updates. The alien object near Neptune remained silent. It hadn't moved since the last light wave, but its energy field still pulsed softly like a heart still beating. Scientists believed it might have entered a form of sleep, waiting for something or someone to return. When Dawnreach was finally ready, thousands gathered to watch its launch. It wasn't just another mission. It was a statement. Humanity was no longer waiting for the unknown to come to them. They were going to meet it. The launch was quiet but powerful. As the engines ignited, the ship rose slowly, then vanished into the sky, leaving behind a trail of silver light. People around the world cheered. Some cried. Others simply stood in silence, watching history unfold. The journey to Vega would take several months. During that time, Titanborn kept watch over Earth, and the world below began to prepare for what might come next. No one knew if the travelers would find allies, danger, or something in between. But the fact that humanity dared to reach out was proof of how far they had come. As Dawnreach moved through space, its crew sent regular updates back home. They described the endless beauty of the stars, the deep silence, and the strange feeling of seeing the sun as just another distant light. They were filled with awe and humility, realizing how small yet significant humanity truly was. Halfway through their journey, something unexpected happened. The ship detected a faint signal, one that matched the same pattern found in Titanborn's mysterious data. It was coming from ahead near their destination. The crew slowed down and prepared for anything. They followed the signal carefully, tracing it to a small, dim planet orbiting Vega's third sun. As they approached, they saw something extraordinary. The planet's surface shimmered like glass. Huge structures stretched across it, long lines of metal and crystal perfectly shaped, still glowing faintly even after what looked like ages. It was a dead world, but it wasn't empty. There were signs of civilization everywhere. Towers, bridges, and vast circular platforms that looked like landing docks. The ship landed gently on one of those platforms. Dust rose around them, but the air was still. The place was silent, untouched for what must have been thousands of years. As the explorers stepped out, their suits recorded everything. The temperature, the air, the sound of their own breaths echoing. They walked carefully through the ruins, feeling both fear and wonder. Then, in the center of the largest plaza, they found something that froze them in their tracks. A massive stone-like structure stood upright, carved with glowing lines that pulsed slowly, just like the object near Neptune. On its surface, symbols appeared, shifting, changing, almost alive. The scientists activated their translation devices, and after a few moments, the symbols formed words they could read. We waited for the children of light. The crew stood in silence. The words matched the tone of the earlier message. They remember you. It was as if the galaxy itself had been waiting for humanity to awaken. One of the explorers touched the glowing stone and a beam of light shot upward into the sky. It wasn't dangerous. It was a signal, reaching far beyond Vega's system. The same pattern appeared on Titanborn sensors back near Earth. The same signal synchronized across light years. Earth Command immediately recognized it. It was a message chain connecting 2 points, the ancient world near Vega and the object sleeping near Neptune. Something was linking them, reactivating across space. The realization hit everyone at once. Humanity had just turned on part of an ancient network. As Dawnreach continued exploring, they discovered more clues. Symbols that looked like star charts, recordings of voices that no one could understand, and murals showing figures surrounded by light. Some looked almost human. It was as if those who had built this place had known that one day, another race would rise and find their legacy. Back on Earth, people followed every update. Schools, homes, and city squares displayed the transmissions. It felt like humanity was rediscovering a lost chapter of its own history. Scientists believed that the beings who once lived on that world might have been the same ones who sent the message from Proxima Centauri. But if that was true, why had they disappeared? Weeks passed as Dawnreach continued their study. They sent samples, data, and recordings back home. Everything pointed to one truth. The galaxy had once been full of life. Civilizations had risen, connected through light and energy, and then vanished. No one knew why. Some thought it was a war, others a natural disaster. But one theory stood out. The civilizations had gone into hiding, waiting for the right moment to return. One night, while Dawnreach orbited the planet, something stirred in the darkness above them. A faint blue shimmer appeared among the stars. The ship's sensors went wild, detecting energy patterns similar to those seen during Titanborn's first encounter. The crew watched as a massive shape began to emerge from the void, a structure so large it made even Titanborn look small. But this time, there was no fear. The signal it emitted was calm and clear, the same tone that had been heard before. A voice came through, not words but emotion, translated into sound. It carried warmth, recognition, and a quiet joy. It was as if something ancient had seen humanity and whispered, "At last." The transmission was sent directly to Earth. The people watched and listened, their hearts full. Humanity had not just been noticed, they had been welcomed. As the giant structure moved closer, it didn't attack or threaten. Instead, it released thousands of lights that spread through space like gentle stars. The explorers watched in awe as those lights touched the planet below, reigniting the ruins with color and energy. The ancient city began to glow again, its towers shining like they once did long ago. It was a gift, a restoration of something lost. Humanity had helped awaken it simply by reaching out. The Dawnreach crew recorded everything and prepared to return home. Their mission had become something more than exploration. It was the beginning of connection. When their ship finally turned toward Earth, the blue shimmer remained behind, glowing softly in the distance. It was a silent promise that the galaxy was not empty, that it had simply been waiting for someone brave enough to listen. As the ship moved closer to home, Titanborn greeted it with a golden light from orbit. Earth watched their return like they had before, but this time the feeling was different. Humanity no longer looked to the stars with fear. They looked with hope, knowing that somewhere out there someone remembered them and had been waiting for them all along. When Dawnreach returned to Earth, the world waited in silence. Billions of people watched as the ship entered orbit beside Titanborn. Two gleaming vessels hovered above the planet, symbols of how far humanity had come. They weren't just ships anymore. They were proof that humans had stepped into a larger story. The crew of Dawnreach had changed. They had seen things no one else had ever seen. They spoke of ancient ruins that felt alive, of signals that carried emotions instead of words, and of a silent promise written in light. Their return was celebrated across every city, every nation. People cheered, cried, and felt pride not just for the explorers but for all of humankind. The command held a global broadcast. The leaders didn't speak in political terms. Instead, they spoke about unity, courage, and discovery. They reminded everyone that this journey had started with fear, fear of the unknown, fear of destruction, but it had ended with hope. Humanity had learned that the universe wasn't a cold emptiness. It was full of memories, connections, and possibilities. Soon after the celebration, the data brought back by Dawnreach was shared with the world. Scientists studied it closely and new questions began to form. The ancient world they had found near Vega seemed to be one of many. Other locations in the map hinted at civilizations spread across the galaxy, each one connected by the same network of light. For months, researchers worked day and night, trying to piece together the puzzle. Titanborn helped by scanning deep space, sending out soft pulses that echoed through the void. Every now and then the ship received faint replies, small bursts of energy, distant but patterned. It was as if the stars themselves were answering back. People on Earth started to look at life differently. Art, music, and stories changed. Instead of being filled with fear of aliens or destruction, they became about connection, understanding, and wonder. Children dreamed of becoming explorers. Scientists felt renewed purpose. Humanity had finally found something greater than itself to reach for. Then one quiet night, something happened that no one expected. Titan-borne sensors picked up a signal, not from space but from beneath the surface of the moon. It was faint but familiar, carrying the same tone as the ancient messages. The discovery shocked the entire world. The command immediately ordered a mission. A small team was sent from Titan-borne to investigate. They landed near the moon's southern ridge where the signal was strongest. Beneath layers of dust and rock, they found a metallic surface, smooth, perfectly round, and old. It wasn't human-made. It looked almost identical to the alien structures found near Vega. When they touched it, the surface came alive. Lines of light spread across it, forming symbols just like before. A soft pulse moved through the ground, reaching Titan-borne and then spreading across space. The same light pattern appeared on Dawn Reach's sensors, and moments later, deep space stations around the solar system began receiving the same signal. It was like a wave of awakening. Across the galaxy, the network of ancient stations, the ones that had been silent for ages, lit up one by one. Each emitted a gentle hum, forming a rhythm that matched the heartbeat of the universe itself. Humanity had become part of that rhythm. The scientists realized something incredible. The objects weren't weapons or machines of war. They were memory keepers, devices built to record the history of intelligent life. Every civilization that had reached the stars had left behind part of its story within that network. And now, Earth's light had joined them. The world watched as the network continued to grow brighter. In every major city, huge displays showed the live readings from Titan-borne. The entire planet held its breath as the signals aligned. Then for a brief moment, all communication devices across Earth flickered. The light from the moon, Titan-borne, and the stars above merged into a single beam stretching deep into space. No one knew what would happen next. For several minutes, the world was silent. Then a soft voice echoed through Titan-borne's communication system, not human, not machine, but calm and warm. The translation systems worked slowly, turning the sounds into words. Children of Earth, your light has returned to the sky. The circle is whole again. The crew stared in awe. The message wasn't a threat or a warning. It was a welcome. The voice continued, speaking in a rhythm that felt like music. You have walked through darkness, but you did not forget to look up. The stars remember those who rise without fear. The message spread across every device on Earth. People listened quietly, tears in their eyes. It was the moment they realized they were not just visitors in the universe. They were part of its story. After the voice faded, the light from the moon dimmed slowly until it disappeared. The network settled into silence once again, but this time it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning. The command sent out one final signal in response, a simple message. We are ready to learn. From that day forward, humanity changed. Titan-borne remained in orbit, now joined by Dawn Reach and new vessels built from shared technology. Instead of preparing for war, they prepared for understanding. Teams were sent across the solar system to study ancient signals, uncovering knowledge that had been buried for millions of years. Years passed, but the memory of that message never faded. Every generation grew up hearing the story of the day Earth's light joined the stars. The phrase "keep your light" became more than words, it became a promise. People began to see themselves as part of something vast and beautiful. One evening, as Titan-borne floated above Earth's horizon, a small signal flickered across its sensors again. It wasn't from the alien network this time. It came from beyond the Milky Way, far, far away. It was faint, distant, but undeniably similar. Another light from another world reaching out across the darkness. The crew didn't know who or what it was, but they smiled. Humanity was no longer afraid of what might come. They had learned that light always finds light. The universe was full of voices, and now Earth had one among them. As the planet turned below, shining with the glow of cities and oceans, Titan-borne watched silently. Its golden surface reflected the sunrise. The warship that had once stood for defense now stood for peace, discovery, and the unbreakable human spirit. Far beyond, somewhere in the deep unknown, a soft reply came. 3 simple words, carried through the void like a whisper of eternity. Welcome home, humans. And for the first time in countless ages, the stars themselves seemed to smile.